All right, ladies and gentlemen, August 7th, 2014, and the broadcast bullies are back.
Indeed we are.
I'm Andrew Boyce.
I'm Ryan Troke.
Let's get into it. Big news today out of the NBA.
Well, big news about the future from the NBA, because technically nothing can get done. But Kevin Love is going to be traded. However you need to phrase that. It's as official as it can be on a day when technically one of the players can't be traded. So again, whatever you want to make of that. Kevin Love for Andrew Wiggins, and a first-round pick.
Is that too much for Kevin Love?
You know what? And you got to put it into context, because I always say a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. In this case, it's three in the bush.
I think you did say that last podcast.
Yeah,
as well.
And I'll say it again. I like that phrase. But you know what? You got to look at the other pieces in Cleveland. And so Cleveland has made themselves one of the two top horses in the East, which is another interesting thing because for the last two seasons it's been Miami and Indiana. And in the course of, 5 days, it's now become Chicago, Cleveland. Indiana's going to be lucky if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're almost considered an afterthought right
Exactly. So, you look at it like that and you say, well, and apparently it's also been said that Kevin Love has agreed in principle to a 5-year deal with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, great for them. They're going to have two young stars going forward in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. But LeBron James is only on a 2-year deal. And LeBron James is the only one of them that has any playoff experience at all. The other guys between them combined for a total of 0 playoff games. So do I like the deal? No. Do I understand it? Yeah, Dan Gilbert's in a bit of a tough situation with LeBron James acting as GM. So But I think this works out much better for Minnesota in the long run. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a strange deal to make when you have the talent in Andrew Wiggins and you haven't yet seen him play. And just even going back to LeBron James's letter, and he acknowledged that the Cavaliers were not ready yet. My understanding was that he was going to let them have a year to see how they gelled, see if Anthony Bennett, was worthy of a number one pick and could play at the NBA level.
Yeah.
What's the harm in letting a year of growth and maturity come on these younger players playing alongside him instead of just rushing to make this deal when Kevin Love would have been available next summer via free agency? And Kevin Love wants to come there. He's already expressed that that's the only team he would go to. I see they gave up way too much for a player who had tied Minnesota's hands.
Yeah.
They gave up three first-round picks for a guy who didn't want to be in Minnesota.
Two first overall picks.
Three first-rounders for a guy who didn't want to be in Minnesota, was going to leave there the next year. Like, that's an odd move by a GM, LeBron James.
Yeah, no kidding. And especially, he's going to give them a year to gel. I don't know maybe he's got short memory, but when he went to Miami, they got to the NBA Finals. When the big three, the original big three in the modern era went to Boston, they won a championship the next year. But when the Lakers put together their big three, they didn't do squat. And the next year, Howard was out, and that was the end of it. So far, you've got a 66% chance that you get to the finals. Is that really worth mortgaging your future? Because that's what you did. You've thrown in the towel. You said, we're going to win now, or we're not going to win at all. And I think it's more likely that they're not going to win at all. However, you look at Minnesota, they've still got Ricky Rubio, who's one of the best young point guards, or has at least the highest ceiling of these young point guards in the league right now. And you've got Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, and Zach LaVine, who they picked up, which if you haven't seen his YouTube video of his vertical, you're missing out. Do that right after you listen to this podcast. The kid's something else. So, you give him 2-3 years. I know that the West is loaded with talent, but these guys are going to be knocking on some doors sooner than later. And Cleveland, I think, is going to be kicking themselves. That being said, Cleveland has made themselves instant contenders in the East, although the argument could easily be made that they're already instant contenders in the East. When you look at it right now, it's not much better than it was last year. It got a lot.
It's a 2-horse race for sure.
Yeah.
Now there's just 2 different horses.
Exactly. And unfortunately, with the injury to Paul George, the East got a lot more open, and you got to feel for Paul George. I mean, I'm pretty sure every basketball fan at least has seen the video now. It's pretty gruesome. Images of Kevin Ware come back. And now, the Pacers are Paul George-less, they're Lance Stevenson-less.
They have nobody on their wing.
They're Roy Hibbert-less for all intents and purposes.
Well, every team doesn't have to worry about being Roy Hibbert-less now.
No kidding.
Only the team that's paying him really does.
Yeah. So your best player just became David West, and David West isn't the David West of old. So, what are they really bringing to the table in a division with the 2 clear best teams in the East?
Yeah, they're going to be hard pressed. I think Chicago definitely has to be the front runner now.
I'd say so.
They have an amazing front court with Gasol and Noah. Probably two of the best passing big men in the league.
The Twin Towers.
Outside of Kevin Love and Marc Gasol. But yeah, these guys, I think for sure Chicago, if Rose can come back healthy, you can see them at the top of the division in the regular season anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that being said, 8 teams have to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, we have to see 8 teams from the East in the playoffs, whether we like it or not. So right now,
no CFL crossover rule.
No, not this year.
Not of yet, but maybe in the coming years.
I mean, especially with how poor last season was, you think they maybe come up with a clause or something in case this happen again, because it's going to happen this year. It's not unlikely that it'll happen the year after. But anyways, I'll give you my locks right now in the East. I've got Chicago, Cleveland. I've got Toronto because they're going to win their division, I imagine. And I've got Washington. Same thing, they're going to win their division. And then Miami's going to make it because I really just can't see there being 8 teams better than Miami in the East. And then you look and Charlotte seems like the next best team. So it's open for those next 3 spots. It's wide open. Maybe Brooklyn can put something together. Maybe even the Knicks, since Carmelo decided to stay. Maybe he knows something that we don't. Don't want to. You can never really underestimate the power of Phil Jackson, the Zen master.
I still think you got to look at teams like Atlanta, though. They tend to hang around for a while.
Yeah,
they do okay.
They're like. What's a good
they play in a pretty
comparison?
Awful division, so
yeah,
they have a chance.
And they're awfully boring.
They are.
Yeah,
those Atlanta games I never like watching when they play at home.
No, I don't even watch
them play, but when they're playing at home, I'm definitely changing the channel.
Yeah. No, I'd like to see the Sixers put something together, or even the Pistons. Some of these young teams.
What about Boston? I'd like to see the Celtics come back.
Yeah, and
I really would have liked to see the Celtics land love.
It's true.
That would have been fun.
And, and it doesn't feel right when the Celtics and the Lakers aren't in the playoffs.
No.
And unfortunately, it looks like it might be a while until they are.
Yeah.
And poor Rajon Rondo's almost just going to waste there on a brutal team in Boston. These are his glory years, and he's doing nothing. He's doing it all, and he's doing nothing. So yeah, I won't rule them out, but I don't have them as a lock. However, one of the teams that I do have as a lock are the Washington Wizards, who are getting better and better each year. And next year, they're going to be even better when they pick up Kevin Durant. You heard it here first, or maybe second or third. A few other
Slim Reaper
channels have mentioned it. Yeah, what do you think of Durant and these Washington rumors?
I think they're definitely they're definitely founded in truth. He grew up in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
He's been linked to Under Armour now, which is from the home state of Maryland.
$325 million over 10 years. So he could pretty much play wherever he wants, and he'll be okay.
Yeah, he can play in the WNBA.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. Was he probably a Wizards fan growing up? Yes, but at the same token, I've also heard that he really liked the Raptors because they had Vince Carter.
Yep.
And I know the brand ambassador, Drizzy Drake, has been working very hard with high-profile celebrities over the last little bit.
Yep.
Since he's come into that role, and has really pushed the Toronto Raptor brand into KD's foresight.
Yep.
So I think it's probably going to be a toss-up between three cities. I would have to say Oklahoma City's going to try to push for as hard as they can to keep him. Washington's going to use the hometown, hey, come on back, come on home.
Yep.
Out of that Cleveland. And then Toronto's going to try to deal some star power.
Yeah.
And show them what a great town Toronto is with Phil Kessel and Ricky Ray and, Jermaine Defoe. Big names.
Jose Batista.
Joey Bats.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's funny, too, because Washington and Toronto are very similar teams. They're both young. They got some really talented players on the upswing. I would say that Washington has probably the two best players between the two teams in Beal and Wall. But in terms of depth, I think I'd still take Toronto right now.
I take Toronto, especially a guy like KD could slide right into that role and be the man.
Exactly.
Just like he's in OKC, where he would probably still be the man in Washington, but you just got to wonder how Wall and Beal will react to that.
Well, exactly, especially with two players that want to be the man. You got to know your roles on these teams, and that's important. And you got a point guard in Kyle Lowry who's established himself not as a superstar but as a star. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a team that wouldn't want to have Kyle Lowry on their team, except for maybe the Clippers, Clippers and the Bulls. But how many Derrick Roses and Chris Pauls are there to go around?
No.
And OKC, is it Westbrook's going to be a free agent the same year as well?
I think he's the year after.
The year after, yeah. So they're just they're going in the tank real quick. Shout out to Seattle. You may be seeing an NBA franchise sooner than later. And I know that OKC has great fans, but you just wonder if the team really starts stinking, how quickly do those fans just leave and go back to college football?
I really think they trading away Harden because of money reasons when this is one of the highest grossing teams in revenue in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's just penny pinching by the owners, and I think it's going to come back to haunt them.
Yep,
for sure.
They're
going to lose one of the two.
Exactly.
In Westbrook and Durant. But if Harden's still there, this team is contending for championships the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
As a powerhouse favorite.
Yep.
Instead of playing the third best team in the Western Conference.
Yep. So it'll be interesting.
Speaking of losing players and gaining players, little trade deadline action last week in baseball. Some movers and shakers were out of the AL.
Yeah, really all the movers and shakers. No teams in the NL really blew the doors open at all. Except for maybe St. Louis picking up John Lackey.
That'll help them, their depth. And a team like St. Louis in the playoffs, you always got to respect that Cardinal Nation.
Exactly.
Something about that Midwest, they just have huge pull, and there's magic time in that Midwest in October.
And they're playing in a tough division too. So
No, but if they come out, that's what I mean. If they get into October, watch out. They usually have the Cardinal magic.
Yep. And sorry, my point was going to be with the tough division. If one of those three teams in that real tight race can sort of get a leg over the others, the other two they'll duke it out between the two of them, and it'll only help St. Louis in the long run. But no, all the headlines were in the East,
for sure.
Unfortunately for Oakland, they were the headline for about 5 hours until Detroit came in and stole it from them. My biggest winner this year, it has to be Detroit, but give it 2 years, it's going to be Boston. John Lester was. I mean, David Price was probably the highest profile free agent, but John Lester's name was right behind him.
Oh, John Lester's clutch.
Well, yeah.
Is he not I think I'm pretty sure it was the MVP of the World Series last year. No,
I think you're right, and that's the thing is you've got two pitchers in Price and Lester that
Price is a Cy Young winner, but Lester has that playoff pedigree.
Yep.
That
And
everybody needs when they make the playoffs. You want a pitcher that can play.
It's true. You can't discount that at all.
No.
But he's also been very vocal in saying that he wouldn't mind coming back to Boston. So he's denoted himself as a rental player, and Oakland just sold the farm for him. Well, their batting farm.
Cespedes is a good bat to have, but he also strikes out a lot. I just love him on the field.
Yeah.
Throwing guys out from the wall. No bouncing. No bounce.
Why would it
at
bounce?
home plate? Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
I got a cannon on my arm. I don't have to worry about rolling it into home plate.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna gut him down from back here. Yeah, they definitely stocked up big.
Mm-hmm. Alan Craig as well.
I like Oakland's move, and I really like Billy Beane not being Billy Beane.
Yeah.
And realizing this is probably the year you got to do something. So let's load up on pitching. They have their pitching. They're probably going to win their division.
They better win their division.
They better win their division.
They better win, because if they go to a one-game playoff, it's not going to matter that you've got 6 great starting pitchers, because you got a one-game, you're in or you're out.
Yeah, anything can happen in the one game. But they win their division. They match up very well. Imagine an AL final of Oakland, Detroit. Every game's probably going to be like 2-1.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for bringing your bats out, but we're not going to need them.
No.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny that everybody's talking about Billy Beane not being Billy Beane, and it really speaks to how great of a movie Moneyball was. Because what other general managers in baseball get that kind of airtime? It's mentioned at least once a week. Brad Pitt playing Billy Beane got the message across.
All I could think of when I heard that trade was Brad Pitt celebrating.
Yeah, yeah. Brad Pitt, Bennett Miller. They're having a good time somewhere. Philip Seymour Hoffman smiling down. I'm sure Jonah Hill's fist pumping.
No, that's it. I just pictured Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill sitting on the couch high fiving. That's the scene in my head going on right now.
Yeah.
People who weren't celebrating were those people in Toronto.
You know what?
Toronto.
And it's a tricky situation. You've always got teams at trade deadlines that don't do anything, and you go, well, were the offers just not worth it? Is management really happy with their team? And you can speculate both ways, and I think it's probably a good thing. From what I've heard, Alex Anthopoulos saying, who has not been played by Brad Pitt in any movies as far as I know, he didn't get any trade offers that were really beneficial towards him and the club. And we've got a lot of players on the DL right now who are coming back.
You got your 3. Well, at the time they had the 3 of their better players on the DL, and Encarnacion, Lind, and Larry.
Yep.
Larry came back, and in the first game he came back, he hurt himself.
Yeah, he came back for a few innings, and now he's back on the DL.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's disappointing, but at the same time, they didn't really do anything, didn't have to do anything at the deadline, because they were going to get 3 other better players back, so they were going to improve in that regard. They're still kicking Baltimore's tires with all these injuries. You would figure they would be better when these players came back.
Yep. At
the same time, Mr. Batts voices displeasure on not doing anything, and I think he's totally right in that regard. This was a chance to add somebody or something to really get the players excited and the fan base excited, and nothing happened. I'm not saying he's not trying, but it certainly kind of gave that impression that you're not trying.
Yeah, and if there was ever a time to do it, it's this year. This is the first time, as far as I can remember,
get rid of R.A. Dickey. Jesus Christ!
What's with all the hate for R.A. Dickey?
I like him as a person, but you don't.
As a person, he's an okay grocer. I see him doing some volunteer work. He's not bad.
Yeah, you don't need this guy on your rotation. It's somebody somewhere would take him.
You know what? I think we're gonna appreciate having a solid knuckler in the. We got to move him to the third spot.
Okay, but then if they don't win the division, it goes back to what you just said. It comes down to that one game. Who are you throwing on that mound for that one game?
You're putting Lowry out there, and you're putting Dickey in the bullpen.
I'm talking about who you put on the. You said Lowry's going to pitch for you.
I'm sorry, Burley.
Burley's going to pitch. Yeah. Okay.
Burley's going to pitch, and you're going to have Dickey in the bullpen in case things start going sour. You throw the knuckler at him. You see what happens.
So if they have no problem hitting a regular pitching guy, the knuckleballer, who, they're not really relief pitchers ever, is going to come in and miraculously stop the floodgates when you're down 6-1.
Hey, it's a one-game series. Weirder things have happened. I'm just saying that's how it's going to work out, Whereas, what do you do if you're Oakland and you get to that one game and you got to choose between Lester or Samardzija? I don't know how you pronounce his name. I think that was correct.
And then at least it's the same
Hamill.
It's the same conundrum. You could have those guys coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Right now, though,
I would feel better if Sanchez or Hutchison or Stroman was coming out of the bullpen than R.A. Dickey.
Yeah, two different trains of thought. Either way, if we get in that one game playoff, it's not going to be our pitching; it's going to be our bats.
Yeah, well, if we don't, that's the thing. If we don't score 6 runs, then we're pretty much done.
Yeah, so we'll just have to score 6 runs. No biggie.
No biggie.
Oh,
this is perfect.
Little country showdown music. What I was going to mention before we got really interrupted, I want to be Detroit right now. I don't remember the last time that you had 3 Cy Young pitchers on the same squad.
I like Detroit.
And their division,
they've choked the last couple of years in the playoffs. They've choked that big.
I like them. I think this is their year.
And it's never been their pitching that's choked. It was always their bats.
Yep. You're not wrong.
No.
I think
it was their bats and their defense.
I think the AL. Right now the easiest team to compare them to is Oakland, and I think they're better than Oakland.
They probably are better than Oakland, but you look at Oakland's run differential; it's 160.
Yeah.
160 runs. That denotes a great team.
They just traded away a whole bunch of that to Boston. Big chunk of that.
Yeah, but when you only allow 330 runs, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, they also just traded away a big arm to Boston from the outfield. But there's still lots of games to be played. We can see what happens. I know when Anibal Sanchez is your 4th pitcher in rotation, that's good. That's not bad.
No, that's a great rotation for Detroit to have.
Yeah, Kansas City is just begging for Toronto to fall back. It's a tight race for that second wild card spot, with either the Angels or the Athletics taking the first spot. I hate to break it to you guys, but yeah, Kansas City, they're not going to catch Detroit.
Well, Kansas City, you got the Yankees right there as well.
Yeah.
Don't count out the Indians.
Nope.
And Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. They're another team with some pitching. King Felix. He's no slouch. Speaking of the team that is holding down that second wild card spot, and we touched on them a little bit, but the Blue Jays, now that it's been a little bit since the trade deadline, they're not looking too bad. I called them making the playoffs early in the year. I'm probably gonna stick to that. Not probably. I'm definitely gonna stick to that. And hopefully Lowry's not out for too long now. I don't know if they've released the MRI information yet. I know there was a big little kerfuffle about that. But they're playing Baltimore right now, and I think tonight's the last game of the series, and that could pull them within 3 games. Yankees aren't really anything to write home about right now. They're not playing bad baseball, but they've had their chances to catch up on the Jays, and they haven't taken advantage of them.
Yeah, no, they're definitely... Jays are sitting well. They just need to start playing consistent and winning, obviously. The obvious formula to make the playoffs is win more than you lose.
Yeah.
And they just need to find that consistency and try to beat the teams that are ahead of them and also maintain that lead over the teams that are behind them.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like what they're doing with their young pitchers. Their young pitchers are really coming in strong. Stroman, Hutchison, Sanchez, all looking good on the diamond.
Stroman's been enjoyable to watch all year long.
Yeah.
I'm real excited going forward. You know, maybe they do get rid of your most hated Dickey in the off season.
I don't
Bringing somebody
hate
else.
him, but I just
we know how you feel.
don't feel like he's imperative to a team winning. It's not like the Mets ever did much with a knuckleball ace. So
No.
even Timmy Wakefield was never the ace in Boston, and when he was, they knew they were in trouble. So they went out and got somebody else.
Yeah, Tim Wakefield was something special. I always liked watching him pitch. All right, are we good with the diamond?
I
feel like we've covered all the bases.
I think that's 3 outs.
Yeah. So let's move to the Lynx. We haven't touched on them for a while. Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear, has come out and very vocally said that he thinks Rory McIlroy could win 15 to 20 majors.
How many does he have right now?
3. 2
That's a
in
lot.
the last 2, but 3 in total.
That's a lot of pressure. He's really young.
Yeah.
You got to consider, not that he lives a very visible lifestyle, but with the way today's society works, the amount of pressure, the amount of times he's photographed, how much that could drain an athlete's psyche.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just got to look down that hall of greatness and see the next person there, who's Tiger Woods, and where it's gotten him. I think 15-20 is a lot. How many does the Golden Bear have?
18.
I was going to say 18.
Yeah, there's only one player ever that's broken 15,
And
that's him. So
And Tiger's sitting at what, 12?
14.
14? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
But he'll be
debate.
sitting at 14 for a while, I think,
Right.
if not forever.
Forever. Yeah, he looks like he's always coming back from an injury and then just hurting something else.
Yeah.
And then when he's not coming back from injury, he's just playing. He's not playing too well.
Exactly.
He's definitely the new face of the club face,
Yep.
so to speak. But I think 18, to break 18 is a little too lofty.
Yeah, it's funny. I've heard a few different opinions about this, and the one that I kind of like the most is it almost seems like Nicholas is getting in his head so that he doesn't catch him. You know, he's looking at right now who could ever possibly get in that area, and he's just going to remind him, like, hey, you got to get 15 to 20, and he's going to spook him a little bit, get that rattle around in his head, and,
Yeah. Well, not even
I'll never get there.
Not even just that. This week that they're playing the PGA, they're playing it on one of Jack Nicklaus's courses.
Yeah.
This guy's designing courses that they're playing major championships on. Of course, if I'm the designer and I hold the record for the most major championships, I'm going to make it next to impossible.
Yep. And
That's kind of a bit of a bias, no?
and on the same token, you know, it is his course, and right now the golf world's talking about Rory McIlroy, and this is his way of coming out and saying, hey, remember, at the end of the day, it's still me. It's still all about Nicklaus, you know? And, you know, that number of 18, Tiger Woods has 14. Walter Hagen, who I've never heard of until today, has 11. But after that, it's Ben Hogan and Gary Player with 9. That's half. That's half of Jack Nicklaus. So you know, it's nice, and he's giving a compliment to Rory McIlroy. And you're right. Ever since 2008, when Tiger won his last major, and then the scandal came out with his wife, golf's been looking for somebody to latch on to draw in more viewers, because the ratings are down. There's no two ways about it. And I think they definitely found their guy in McIlroy. I don't know if Nicklaus's comments help or hurt.
They definitely, like you said, they definitely get in the player's head.
Oh yeah, there's no way for it not to.
I mean, look at what those words at the Dustin Johnson.
Yep.
Screwed him right up.
Yep. I'm just trying to see where McIlroy is on the leaderboard today. Maybe he hasn't teed off yet. And it is only the first day, so I won't read too far into it. But yeah, I'm already down at the even scores, and I don't see him. So he probably hasn't teed off yet. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about it on Sunday amongst ourselves.
Yeah. It's that time of the week again.
Everybody's
That time of the
favorite time.
podcast. Here we go.
I feel like we haven't done one of these for a while.
No.
Something special.
Grooving out right now.
Oh yeah, Luda. All right, I'm gonna get it started, bringing back area codes. I'm gonna go to the 412, the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 3 major sports teams. Right now, I'm gonna take. I think I'm gonna take the Steelers. And
That was an obvious choice for you.
yeah, first of all, they're my football team. Second of all, the Flyers are my hockey team, so I can't really take the Penguins.
No way you're taking the Penguins.
You know what? Big Ben's got 2 rings. That's nothing to scoff at. I think now with Russell Wilson and Joe Flacco getting rings, that makes it 9 quarterbacks in the league now with rings.
Yeah.
You got those 2, Ben, the 2 Mannings, Brees, Brady. Oh, still I'm only at 7. Am I forgetting somebody?
Manning?
Maybe it is only 7. No, I said the 2 Mannings, Flacco, Wilson, Big Ben, Brees, Brady. Okay, so maybe it is only 7 right now. Yeah. Okay, even better.
Even better.
7 quarterbacks.
Well, I think the biggest thing to be a Steelers fan right now is you got to be rejoicing. Not only is Flacco's contract awful the way it ties up Baltimore.
Yeah.
Cincinnati turns around and gives that same contract to friggin' Andy Dalton.
Yep.
Andy Dalton. Now he's got to watch out for Johnny Football.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. You know, we're in a division now with teams that have quarterbacks that have legitimate interest around all of them. However, our defense is they're old, but we're building the right way. Steelers have never really slumped for more than a year, 2 at the most. So I like our odds going into this next season. And Le'Veon Bell, I think is how it's pronounced. Don't quote me on that. Running back of the future. Write that name down. Remember the name. He's something special. He's got some talent coming up in our back core. So who do you like from the 412?
I'm going to take the Penguins from the 412 just so I could give out a birthday shout out to Sid the Kid.
No.
Turns 27 today.
You get invited to the party?
I had to unfortunately decline the invitation. I have a very important softball game later tonight.
You're a busy man.
And I'm making chicken wings, so
yeah, can't make it out for every Cole Harbor player's birthday.
Can't make it out for cold ones in Cole Harbor.
No.
Okay, sticking with area codes, and I'm going to stick with the same digits just in a reverse order. I'm going to the 214. We're going down where everything's bigger in Texas. We're going Dallas.
Let's do it.
Just like you, I'm going to stick to the football team.
Okay.
Training camp's in. Preseason's about to begin. Excitement, you got to be excited about Dallas football.
Gotta be, right? Jerry Jones.
You gotta be. You got a mega stadium. You got a mega quarterback who dates mega celebrities. And you got a mega... I talk about the owner. The mega douche owner. So you know that Cowboy fever is heating up.
Did you hear what Jerry Jones did this year for season ticket holders? He's given them, along with their ticket package, he's given them tickets for the postseason games that are going to be redeemable if and when they make the postseason.
Nice.
Which is a nice little, power of intention type move, positive thinking.
Good for them.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Because the last couple of years, they haven't made them.
No. I don't know why more teams don't do this.
That's a way to inspire and get people excited about it.
Exactly. As for me, I'm going to take a page from your book. I'm going to go to the ice. I'm going to take the Dallas Stars.
I felt like you would do that. Which is a good choice.
You know what? They're playing in. I mean, the West is tough. We know that. But they've got 2 young stars in Ben and Seguin, and I don't use that term lightly. They are stars.
Yeah.
And with Valerie Nichushkin, coming up as the 3rd member of that line, they're nothing to laugh at. I want to say they made a move in the offseason that I don't remember. Spezza, that's right. Okay, so now they've got a little bit of depth on their second line. They've got a good team, and I've always been a fan of Kerry Lettinen. I've always been very vocal about that, even in his days in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see them going forward, really making some moves. They're going to be my team. I'll take them with pride.
They are a squad that's definitely up and coming, for sure.
Yeah. They play the right way. They're a fast team.
They're fun to watch.
They're entertaining, for sure.
Okay. We are going to end this with some projections.
Yep.
Heading towards the stretch run of baseball. We'll probably do this a few more times throughout the course of the segments, but it's always fun to have a benchmark to where you started.
Exactly. We'll see whose predictions start changing.
We're going to go with each division winner and the winner of the wild card game, and then we're going to give you our...
Talking about baseball.
We're talking...
The only sport with playoffs coming up anytime soon.
Yeah, and then we're going to give
Less
you
than
our
50 games away.
World Series predictions as well.
Teams and the winners.
Out of the AL, division winners, I have Baltimore, Detroit, Oakland. No risk taken there.
No.
And then I see Toronto winning out against the Angels.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, a little Canadian content this year.
I got a slight variation of that. I like Baltimore, Detroit. I think the Angels are going to catch Oakland in the West, and then I'm going to take the Blue Jays over Oakland. I think it's going to be a little disappointing for Billy Beane coming up short, but I'm just like you. I believe that Canadian content's going to get there, even so much that I'm going to have to will him in there if need be to make it come true.
Nice.
In the NL. I like Washington. I like St. Louis. I like the Cardi Cards, and I like the Dodgers. They're my 3 division champions. And then in my wild card game, I've got the Milwaukee Brewers beating the Pittsburgh Pirates in extra innings. Just Pittsburgh gets that little bright light of making the playoffs, and then it just gets shut off quicker than a light switch by the Brewers. Yeah.
The NL, I have Washington. I have St. Louis making a push. I have the Dodgers coming out of the West.
Oh, look at us.
And I also have the Giants making a run, which sets me up for 3 very interesting potential series.
Mm-hmm.
With the Battle of Maryland, could be the Baltimore-Washington, which would be nuts.
Yep. Sorry, who's your other wild card team other than the Giants? Who you got them beating?
I have the Giants. I didn't look that far into it.
It's probably the Brewers, the Pirates, the Braves have a shot at getting
they're gonna beat the Braves. I can't cheer for the Brewers to do well, so go Braves, go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take the Braves. Yeah, so you got the Battle of Maryland. You got the Midwest Classic, Detroit and St. Louis, which would just stir up all kinds of hate in the Midwest there. And then you could either have
the LA Derby.
You could have the
You don't like the LA Derby?
There's no LA Derby.
Sure, the Angels and the Dodgers.
I don't have the Angels going.
Oh, you don't have the Angels.
No.
That's right. Oh,
I have Oakland, which would be Oakland and Dodgers, which would be very interesting, or another Bay Series.
Yep.
Oakland and San Fran.
Yeah.
Which leaves Toronto not in the World Series.
But
I think I'm okay with that. Any of those other 3 series. And I'll take the AL. The AL winner in all those series.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So making a few different predictions.
That's
a little.
I switched it up last minute.
Little non-committal. As much as I like those series, and I have left it open for an Angels-Dodgers potential clash, I think it'll be the Tigers and the Dodgers eventually duking it out. And I got the Tigers in 5. I think their pitching comes through, and they take it in 5. Baltimore's my wild card dark horse, just because they're probably the most well-rounded of the teams that I have in the AL making it.
Nice.
But I think when it comes down to it, if they play either Detroit or Oakland, that rotation that we've mentioned is going to just catch up to them. And if they play the Blue Jays, we've seen how the Blue Jays really stack up against them.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Tigers. Even though I just sang Baltimore's praises, I still think Detroit will take them out, and they'll also take out the Dodgers in 5 to bring a World Series championship home.
I like all the teams there, especially from the AL. I think they're all set up well to do good things, big things in the postseason. So that's why I'm taking them over the NL.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
And until next time, keep your stick on the ice.
Yeah. Watch some sports.
Dribbles to the basketball. He's going to get to the rim.